Hello, and welcome to On My Shelf. Today I'm talking about a fantastic middle grade novel that explores the issue of banning books from the perspective of a fourth grader. Ban This Book by Gratz is a story about a shy fourth grader named Amy Ann who finds her voice and her rebellion when her favorite book is taken off the shelves of her school library because it was challenged by a parent. She and her friends start a secret banned books locker library and try their best to fight censorship in their school. Gratz is also the author of historical books like Allies, Grenade, and Project 1065, as well as some baseball novels. He's probably best known for his historical book Refugee, about 3 refugee kids who flee their homes because of war. There was a lot to love about this book. The first was kids owning their power. Amy Ann and her friends dislike the book banning so much that they start their own locker library of banned books. Amy Ann collects copies and kids check them out. I loved seeing kids take matters into their own hands. The reality is, they have their opinions about issues, and they should be able to voice them and do something about it. I also really loved the concept itself. This book published in 2017, and here we are in 2023, still having the same conversations. More, really. I love this concept because it felt timely, and it's also incredibly important to share with kids so they understand what's happening in their own school libraries across the nation. And maybe even give them some ideas for what they can do about it. At the very least, it provides talking points for book clubs or parents reading the books with or to their children. I also really loved the real family dynamics. Amy Ann lives in a small house with 2 sisters. Her sisters are always everywhere. Amy Ann gets annoyed and feels like she doesn't have any space of her own. I enjoyed this part of the book because it felt like real life. We don't all get a space of our own, even though that's important. I live in a house with 7 other people. When I was growing up, I lived in a tiny house with 4 other people. All of Amy Ann's frustrations and struggles felt very real and relatable to me, and I'm sure to other kids who constantly have other people encroaching on their space. I enjoyed the honest way Gratz explored those emotions in Amy Ann. From the craft perspective, there were a lot of things to love about this book as well. The first is that Gratz didn't shy away from reality. At the end, I'm giving away some spoilers here, Amy Ann wants to read The Hunger Games. Her dad says it's a little too old for her. She's not happy exactly, but she understands that her dad has the authority to tell her what she can and can't read, even while no one else has that authority. So even though things turn out well for Amy Ann, she still doesn't get everything she wants. That reality is important to share in books so kids remember that even if their work gets them what they want, it won't get them everything they want. No one gets everything they want. The second was Amy Ann's distinctive voice. All throughout the story, there were parts where Amy Ann would say, "What I wanted to say was this. What I really said was..." It was a way to show her reluctance to speak up and how she had these complicated things she wanted to say, but could never find the courage to say. That was another part of her journey, of course. But I felt like it was also a very defining feature of her voice. Number 3 was name-dropping books. One of the things I loved most about this book was how Gratz used the actual titles of books that have been banned. He dropped the names of those books all over the place, which of course gives kids more reading material. I actually wanted to read it again just to make a list of all the books and make sure I've read them all. I've read most, but I don't want to miss any. So here's what we can take away from Ban This Book. Number 1, it's okay and admirable to challenge authority. We're not always comfortable with kids challenging authority, but sometimes the rules don't make sense. And Amy Ann and her friends didn't feel like the banned books made sense, so they challenged it. I love this. Not only does it give kids power, but it helps them see that their opinions matter. Kids don't have a lot of power in their everyday lives. Adults are usually telling them what to do. But Amy Ann's story reminds me to let my own kids challenge authority when the rules don't make sense to them. And it also reminds me, as an author, to have my characters do the same. And in the same way, Amy Ann's story reminded me that fourth graders can be wise. One is never too young to understand or fight censorship. What more can my young characters do in their stories? Number 2, mention books by name. Gratz's use of the real titles of real books reminded me that I can totally do that in my own stories, and it gives kids another book to put on their list. It promotes continued reading, and it can also help out other authors, which is what we're all about in this author world. Number 3, look for different ways to establish a character's voice. Amy Ann's little "what I wanted to say" versus "what I actually said" reminded me that as authors, we can find more non-traditional ways to show a character's voice. Traditionally, voice is word choice and vocabulary plus rhythm, so sentence length and punctuation we use. But it's also more than that. It can be communicated in a character's hesitancy to speak, or their boldness in speaking. It can be communicated in how funny or how serious they are. Voice is also personality, so the more personality we give our characters, the more voice we give them too. That's it for today's On My Shelf. If you're interested in hearing an author's perspective on books, movies, and sometimes TV shows, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.